Hi, I'm your host, Ron Whitlock, and this is our Meet the Candidates special report on Ron Whitlock Reports. We have with us today Chairman of the Transportation Committee of the Texas House of Representatives, Terry Canales. We have candidate Morgan LaMantia seeking Texas Senator District number 27, the seat being vacated by retiring State Senator Eddie Lucio Jr. We have Ron Mills, Executive Director, Port of Port Mansfield, 28-year U.S. Coast Guard retired, who's a national hero as he worked undercover in Colombia fighting the drug cartel of Pablo Escobar and was put on Escobar's hit list because he was obviously doing a good job. Congratulations, sir.
Thanks.
Congratulations on what you've been able to accomplish at the Port of Port Mansfield. Port of Port Mansfield, thanks to $17 million given to it to dredge the port from foot and a half, really in trouble, having no commercial traffic, no commercial economic development, by two people, by senior Texas Senator John Cornyn and Henry Cuellar. Henry Cuellar, the only Texas member of the Appropriations Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives. Thanks to Cuellar and Cornyn, the port has been dredged. And could you explain just a minute, if you wouldn't mind, Ron, exactly what has transpired because of that dredging and because of that money that came in of 17 million, now up to 31. How did we get from 17 to 31?
Well, we were fortunate enough to get a total of 25 million from the federal government to go through the Corps of Engineers and take our channel, which was navigationally set at about 6.5 feet, which was obviously not deep enough for anything, and now is 17 feet through the navigational channel and 23 feet between the jetties. What that means is we're not even classified as a shallow water port officially anymore. We actually can handle depth-wise just about any vessel that comes in and out of the state. And then we have two other TxDOT projects that have already been funded, and one of them is nearing completion, and the second one will get underway in August for a queuing yard, which is a container handling area, and a new secondary roadway that'll take the load off the state highway so that it doesn't impact our residential district.
Now, Ron is going to explain just a little later after we talk to Morgan and also to Terry Canales the fact that he expects $250 million in economic activity at the Port of Port Mansfield over the next 24 months. That's transformational to Greater South Texas because that's the poorest county in the state of Texas. And those waterborne economic development components are going to work in collaboration with the second poorest county in the state of Texas, that's in Starr County, which has the Roma Bridge and the Rio Grande City Bridge. That's why I am endorsing again Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar, first person I ever endorsed after starting in the radio television business at the age of 18 years of age. I had to do that because of the money he's given to the Port of Port Mansfield, the transformational aspects of what occurred there after he gave that startup fund along with Senator John Cornyn. You have heard Terry Canales about the fact that what has happened at the port. You've heard a little bit of from our port director here with us on the telecast here today, what's going on at the Port of Port Mansfield and what could happen in Starr County. What do you think about that, and where does that fit in with the person that you're endorsing, the lovely lady sitting between us, Morgan LaMantia?
Well, thank you for having me, Ron. It's a great pleasure
sure.
to be with you, and thank you for what you do. Everybody, it's no secret that the success of the Rio Grande Valley and recent success, leaps and bounds, have been an embracing of regionalism, that we are a region. And Willacy County encompasses that region, and so does Starr County. And the reality is our ports of entry are huge, multi-billion-dollar economic engines, including our seaports and our land ports. We are geographically situated in a portion of the world and of the beautiful state of Texas where we are the beneficiaries. And not only are we the beneficiaries, the entire state and the nation. Port Mansfield, through over time, you've heard, was filling in. The port was filling in, and it didn't have the capacity to take some of these larger vessels. The reality is when you look at increasing capacity or bandwidth, so to speak, you create another multi-billion-dollar engine for South Texas. The fact that Morgan LaMantia and her candidacy for Senate has spoken to me about this and various other aspects of the port industry since she began her candidacy tells me that she understands not only the dynamics of the region, the dynamics of what the ports do for our economy, and her avid support of moving forward with projects like this show me that she understands what we can do together as a region, not sort of a Friday night football mentality. I've actually read reports of where her opponent was not in opposition of the Second Causeway. Again, another economic engine, a driver of jobs, and a driver of a better quality of life for all those in the region. For instance, the Port of Port Mansfield expansion and potential heavy haul corridors. Those things increase our bandwidth. When you talk about the border and you talk about the ports of interest, you have to understand that our ports are at capacity in the sense that sometimes it takes 3 days for a truck to get across the border. That's costing us billions of dollars. So to increase not only rail capacity, water port capacity, and our land port capacity, and for her to understand the importance of that and to already be showing the leadership skills to taking on those issues, from me, is indicative of this is the kind of person we need in the Texas Senate. Morgan LaMantia understands what's going on, and she's already proven to be an essential partner in making sure that these projects move forward.
And being a resident of South Padre Island, that puts her on the ground understanding exactly what South Padre Island needs. It does need the Second Causeway.
No doubt.
And it does need this collaboration with this project, which is also beginning on South Padre Island. So something that started out with 17 million is now grown to $250 million over the next 24 months. So since that's happening on this part of the South Padre Island, how about going south and trying to get those same kind of dollars, 250 million, whatever number of dollars it is, to get that Second Causeway built? Sound like something you'd like to tell the folks about and why you think that's important?
Yes, sir. The Second Causeway is very important to our region. And like Representative Canales said, you know, we need to look at this as a regional project, and we need to look at these projects as region areas that when we work together, we get a lot of things done. For instance, our MPOs brought in a lot of money for our areas, including helping out Willacy County. And with the Second Causeway, what that also includes is a northern corridor through Cameron County and southern part of Willacy County over through Hidalgo. What that will also include is better drainage, which will help impact all 3 counties. So we're not just talking about a Second Causeway, but that additional corridor. And when we talk about infrastructure and we talk about those overweight corridors, that's going to benefit the entire border region, because we are the second biggest port state in the country, and we have so many trucks coming in, and it has a huge impact on our roads. And I know that Representative Canales just did put forth a study to be able to study the impact our trucks have on our roads, so that we can make sure we have the funds from TxDOT and we have the support from the state and federal level to help increasing those roads and infrastructure for projects that will bring in more economy and build those businesses.
Joe LaMantia, Greg LaMantia, Steve LaMantia, Tony LaMantia, Val, the whole family. They've just got a passion for trying to do something good for South Texas. Who out of all those individuals is your blood related to? Where did you get the passion that I've seen in all of them? You inoculated by all of them, or one more than another?
Yes, sir. I believe it just kind of goes to how we were raised as a family. You know, my cousins and I, we were raised more like siblings than we were like cousins. You know, it didn't matter which aunt or uncle we were around, they could punish each one of us, and we would get in trouble with either one. But, you know, my grandfather, he set a really high bar and a really great example for all of us, including my parents and all of my cousins. He wanted to make sure that we always gave back to the community whenever we were able. You know, he didn't finish college, or he didn't go to college and he didn't finish high school, but he was able to start a scholarship program for the kids in this community so that they had the opportunity that he didn't. And that's something that I'd really love to continue. And fighting for this community, whether it's education, whether it's economic development, is one of the most important things that I can do as a member of this community. And that's something that my family has taught us generation after generation. Yes, sir.
I want to add something, Ron. I've known the LaMantia family since I was a child, and I can tell you that she's part of a family that employs over 1,200 Texans. Morgan understands supply chain. She understands healthcare. They provide healthcare for all of their employees, and to be a job generator is something that most people can't say. That they generate employment. That somebody can say that their company generates over 1,200 jobs is almost unheard of. And for somebody to say that those 1,200 jobs create and support countless thousands of businesses is virtually non-existent. And so the fact that she's part of and has played an essential role in a cornerstone and a pillar of the community makes her ideal to understand the problems and the solutions and how South Texas needs to move forward. And I'm proud to know her, and I'm proud to endorse her.
Now, you are an attorney, but do you just, are you the
We're not going to hold
attorney?
that against her.
Yeah.
You're the attorney for L&F Distributors, and that's it? You have one client, is that it?
Yes, sir. Well, I'm in-house counsel for L&F Distributors, unless, my family throws something else at me, but yes, sir. My sister and I are both the in-house counsel, so there's two of us.
Well, most Texans are used to attorneys getting a job at the Capitol, and then they get continuances, and they get a lot of retainers from much other people, and you're not going to be in that league.
No, sir, not at all. I've got my hands full as it is, with hopefully becoming the next state senator, and then with L&F Distributors.
How do you envision working with Senator Judah Zapparini in Starr County? Because this is the poorest county, Willacy, second poorest county in Starr, and all this waterborne trade and traffic and job creation and so forth works in collaboration now that it's built over the next 24 months, $250,000 with Starr County and its 4 land crossings.
Yes, sir.
So how do you envision working with Judah Zapparini, who has tenure and power and strength in the Capitol in Austin? Also, you have Brian Guillen, who used to represent this area and now has been limited to Starr County and taken away from this area. He's an R now, and so we think he's got a lot of power with the speaker, wouldn't you think, going into the next session as a Republican. And so he's going to be able to work with you. And we have Henry Cuellar right now. We were hoping and praying. I'm endorsing him, hoping he gets reelected, because on appropriations, he can bring big bucks, just like he did here over there in Starr County. So how do you envision working with those 3 individuals if you're elected on the 24th of May?
Yes, sir. So I envision working very well with those individuals. I've known them for a very, very long time, almost my whole life, and been able to build those relationships. And I have been able to reach out to them throughout this campaign to ask them for their advice and their information and input as well. So I believe we can work very strongly together. And what's great about Senator Zapparini, not just how long she's been there and her knowledge of at so many levels of government, but also she used to represent, or currently does represent, San Patricio County, which is now going to be part of SD 27. And because of that, she's had experience dealing with water ports in the past. So working with her with Port Mansfield and the other water ports should be very, very easy to do. The other thing is that she has so much experience dealing with land ports, not just because of Starr County, but Webb County as well. So I feel like we can get a lot of support from her in this project as a whole. Henry Cuellar, Congressman Cuellar, like you said, you've already worked with him very well, and he's shown his support behind this project. So I see us working together fantastically. And when it comes to Representative Guillen, I know he's been a great ally to a lot of us here in South Texas, and I've heard him described as a picture of bipartisanship with his switch over to becoming a Republican. So I imagine us being able to work very well together. Yes, sir.
How does this fit in with your campaign TV commercials I'm seeing? Man, you fight for South Texas, you've got issues with Biden, you've got issues with Abbott, and where's all that coming from? Where's that coming from? Is that because you're a Lamantia and you've been used to doing that your entire life?
No, sir. That
Working in a bipartisan way?
Oh, working in a bipartisan way. Yes, sir. But
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with business and when you're working on everyday issues, you don't care about the parties. What you want to see is the problem get solved. You want to see people coming together, those that you elected, whether it's at the state government or the federal government, to find realistic and regular solutions to these problems that are affecting us every day. And what's going on the border has been affecting our region for decades, and we haven't seen things get done, and we need to get those problems fixed, especially when it comes to impacting our families and our businesses.
Anything else you'd like to add as to why you endorsed this fine young lady?
Well, aside from all the qualities that you see right now, the leadership qualities in those, having taken charge, the bull by the horn, so to speak, when it comes to projects like this, the other thing that is extremely compelling is her opponent's failure to understand infrastructure funding. I've read, and she doesn't seem to have any sort of grasp on anything when it comes to moving the economy forward, when it comes to planning for the future of South Texas, when it comes to understanding how the future of South Texas depends on economic funding and transportation funding and infrastructure funding. Not being able to grasp the necessity for a second causeway or heavy haul, these things are extremely troubling. And so South Texas cannot afford to even consider somebody that is so far removed from the reality of the fact that we are underfunded, underserved, and we've got to fight twice as hard for every dollar to not even grasp the necessity for these, which should be very easy understand projects, is extremely troubling, and it should not leave any doubt that Morgan LaMantia is the absolute only candidate in this race that should be elected.
Now, I was trained by Senator Eddie Lucio that legislation happens in the interim. It doesn't happen during the session when everybody's up there with bags and buttons and on the elevators and so forth. That doesn't do it. It's in the interim. That's why these interim hearings are so important. Why is that the way it is, Chairman?
Well, during the interim, the speakers, this interim and every other interim, the speaker generally issues the charges for which we are setting the stage for the next and subsequent legislative session. Those committees issue reports. For instance, my committee is charged with a series of charges, and one of them is to study